Humans first came into contact with the Holy Light sometime after the Troll Wars, when a number of their priests began having dreams and visions of the Naru, though they did not understand exactly what they saw. The first of these was Meroldar, the sister of General Lordain, a hero who died during the Troll Wars, after whom the land of Lordaeron was named. Over time, the priests joined together and formed a religious movement and began spreading their faith, centered on the belief that the light dwelled in all beings and on the tenet of selflessness, among the other humans. The movement had the greatest success among the common folk and in Tirisfal and Eastwold, the future Plaguelands. Many ascetic communities would form in the area which, along with the city of Lordaeron itself, would gradually become pilgrimage sites. Faith in the Holy Light would then, eventually, become the predominant human religion, though, presumably, some deviations existed from the original writings of Meroldar and the other priests. Later on, the leaders of Lordaeron codified the various light-based traditions and belief systems into the Church of the Holy Light, establishing a hierarchy and building temples and shrines across all of the human lands. Lordaeron would be the capital of the church, and its two known archbishops, and presumably most of their predecessors, Benedictus and Alonsus Faul, came from, or at the very least studied, there. The philosophy of the Church of the Holy Light is centered around a number of virtues, which have varied somewhat over time, though the general idea is the same, the idea of universal peace and the selflessness of the members of the Church. Initially, Meroldar had visions of 5 Naru, who taught her holiness, protection, justice, retribution, and compassion. At present day, there are instead 3 virtues, which are defined in a very specific order: respect, tenacity, and compassion. Respect is defined as conducting oneself with honor, looking past the hatred that separates one from their enemies and acknowledging their respective qualities. Tenacity represents the strength of perseverance in one's beliefs during hard times. Finally, compassion is defined as looking beyond appearances and understanding the similarities with one's enemies, feeling compassion for their own losses as a result, and, thus, reaffirming one's connection with the world. The original 5 virtues instead became the core tenets of the Knights of the Silver Hand, with each of the original 5 paladins carrying an ancient librum representative of one. It's worth noting that these are the tenets of the human Church of the Holy Light, and thus do not necessarily apply entirely to, for instance, the Draenei priesthood, as well as that some individuals or even organizations pertaining to the Church have violated them in the past. The priesthood, at least in Stormwind, has accompanied humanity's armed forces on the battlefield from early times. Even Meroldar, before she had visions of the Naru, was implied to have participated herself in the Troll Wars. In Stormwind, the clerics of Northshire served as healers throughout the wars the kingdoms had before the opening of the Dark Portal against the Gnolls and the Gurubashi trolls, their bravery often inspiring the other human troops. In fact, they were also known to heal wounded enemies and, as a result, were at times even spared by them on the battlefield. This changed, however, in the First War, when the orcs began specifically targeting the clerics due to their healing powers. The clerics of Northshire thus suffered heavy casualties during the war, though they were still unhesitant in participating in battles. After hearing of the fall of Stormwind and of the Order of Northshire, Archbishop Alonsus Faul created the first paladins, warriors wielding the light who could more effectively participate on the battlefield, and who proved instrumental in the Alliance's victory in the Second War. The Church of the Holy Light had also spread to High Elves, Dwarves, and to a lesser extent Gnomes, though it is not the predominant religion, at least among the latter two groups. The Dwarven and High Elf communities were led by high priests who, at least in the case of the former and probably not for the latter, might have been subservient to the Archbishop in Lordaeron, though the exact relationship is not detailed upon, while the Gnomish community is treated more as a medical department than a church and is led by a chief surgeon. The High Elf High Priest, at least, Vandalor, was an associate of King Anasterion and a friend of Grand Magister Belovir, and thus probably had some influence in the government of Quel'Thalas. Much like the clerics of Northshire, the High Elf priests were also recognized as ill-suited to fighting, but they were, nonetheless, assigned to Far Strider platoons during the Second and probably Third Wars. Some, though definitely not the majority, of the High Elf priests also sympathized with the humans of Lordaeron during the Third War and lent their aid to the forces opposing the Undead Scourge. Following the destruction of Silvermoon at the hands of the Scourge, the vast majority of the Blood Elves, even the priesthood, renounced their faith in the light, though many, for instance, sympathized with the Naru Muru and disliked the Blood Knight Order for forcibly siphoning power from it. After the restoration of the Sunwell, now also infused with the light, and the redemption of the Blood Knight Order, it can be presumed that faith in the Holy Light is once again on the rise in Quel'Thalas. Following the Second War, the Church of the Holy Light, led by Alonsus Fowl, was instrumental in rebuilding the city of Stormwind, successfully gathering funds from the other human lands. In fact, the cathedral was the first to be rebuilt in the new city, which then housed the refugees as other construction progressed. For this reason, the cathedral district in Stormwind housed the statue of Alonsus Fowl until it was replaced with one of Uther the Lightbringer during Cataclysm. After the Third War and the destruction of Lordaeron, the church moved its headquarters to Stormwind, where it has resided ever since. Though they retain some connections, it's worth noting that the various orders formed following the Third War, namely the Argent Dawn and Argent Crusade, as well as the Scarlet Crusade and Scarlet Onslaught, are not affiliated with, nor subservient to, the Church of the Holy Light. Officially, the Church does support the Argent Crusade, but have actively condemned the Scarlet Crusade, though there is an emissary of the latter within the Cathedral of Light's catacombs. The Church of the Holy Light was used by the Twilight's Hammer in order to recruit more members to its cause. At first, around the time of Burning Crusade, the cult spread among the traumatized survivors of the Third War. However, they then learned of Archbishop Benedictus' own faltering faith following the event. Under the guise of believers of the Holy Light in need of guidance, the cultists slowly whittled away the Archbishop's faith and enticed his curiosity of the void, following which the old gods themselves began whispering in the priest's mind. Benedictus then swore allegiance to the Twilight's Hammer, but openly continued in his role as Archbishop and even continued to wield the light through sheer willpower. He was instrumental in recruiting new members into the Twilight's Hammer, especially taking advantage of Deathwing's short attack on Stormwind, which the dragon had done for that purpose. After Cho'Gall's death, as one of its most influential members, Benedictus would become the Twilight Father, the leader of the cult.